And the Oscar goes to Mikey Madison.
Hey guys, it's Brian. Welcome to the awards contender. It is finally time to talk about Mikey Madison's Best Actress Oscar win for Anora. How did she do it? Why did she win over Demi Moore and Fernanda Torres? It is time for me to break it all down. I have 10 reasons, the top 10 reasons why Mikey Madison won Best Actress. Let's start with number 1, the near sweep for Anora. So I would say this is probably the most important reason. As I talked about with Cody in that video a few days ago, I'm like, if there had been any vulnerabilities for Anora at the Oscars in picture, director, original screenplay, or editing, if it had missed one of those, then it's possible, I would say, that Demi Moore might have won Best Actress over Mikey Madison. But we see this sometimes, right? If a film at the Oscars is super strong and there is a phenomenal lead performance that's nominated, like they typically go along for the ride. And I knew when Anora took original screenplay and editing, I knew at that point of the ceremony, I was like, it's probably gonna be Madison. It's going to be very strange if Anora wins those top 4 prizes and it doesn't take actress. That was going to be weird. I thought if Anora could at least take picture, director, and original screenplay, like all 3, that then Madison would probably win. But if the Academy didn't love Anora that much, you know, if they had gone the way of the Golden Globes and the Screen Actors Guild Awards, both of which did not give Anora a single prize, then Madison probably doesn't win. I mean, there was BAFTA. BAFTA did not give Anora picture or director or screenplay. They only gave it casting and actress for Madison. So you could point to that and say, well, BAFTA didn't really love the movie, but they still gave actress to Madison. Maybe the Academy would have done the same thing. If original screenplay at the Oscars had gone to A Real Pain, and director had gone to Brady Corbet for The Brutalist, and picture had gone to Conclave, maybe it's possible that Madison still would have won actress. I mean, and I will say that now, it is possible, but I do think Anora coming on as strong as it did at the Oscars, at the end of the day, that did absolutely help Madison secure that Best Actress win. Number 2 was that BAFTA win in Best Actress for Mikey Madison. If Madison had not won at BAFTA, I don't think she wins at the Oscars. She didn't win at the Globes. She didn't win at Critics' Choice. She didn't win at SAG. So, I mean, these days you have to win one major Precursor prize. You don't have to win all of them. You don't have to win most of them. You just need to win one. And as has been the case this year and last year, BAFTA is most important. Going into the Oscars and predicting Demi Moore, I just was like, I don't know, is that BAFTA win for Madison enough? It came right near the end of Oscar voting. Like, Oscar voting had been going on for a few days before BAFTA. I don't know. I was like, Demi Moore won Best Actress at Golden Globes and Critics' Choice and SAG. That felt like a lot. And I was like, is that BAFTA win just alone going to be enough for Madison? It was. That can often be enough, you know? I mean, last year Emma Stone won for Poor Things with BAFTA and Golden Globes and Critics' Choice. So there was that. Stone had a better package, I would say, going into the Oscars. But think back to the 2020 year, I think the closest we have to what happened with Madison happened with Frances McDormand, the year of Nomadland. Like, remember that year Best Actress was going to different people all along the way? BAFTA went to McDormand, and that's all she had won going into the Oscars. So I was like, especially because she had just won Best Actress at the Oscars 3 years before for 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. I was like, they're not going to give her a third. They're not going to give her another Best Actress win so close to her second. But no, she did win the Academy Award that night for Nomadland for 2 big reasons. She won at BAFTA, and she was in The Strongest Film, the film that won Best Director and Best Picture. So it's kind of like Madison. Also that year, you had Anthony Hopkins win Best Actor for The Father at BAFTA. He had not won anything before then. That was the season of Chadwick Boseman winning pretty much everything for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. The only prize Boseman had not won was BAFTA, but then we got to the Oscars, and Best Actor there did not go to Boseman. It went to Hopkins, again for the stronger film that was in Best Picture, and because he won at BAFTA. That does seem to be a key win nowadays. I mean, it didn't help Cate Blanchett for Tar. She won Golden Globes, Critics' Choice, and BAFTA. But then Michelle Yeoh won SAG and the Oscars. So it's not like if you win BAFTA, you're always going to win the Oscar. There are going to be different factors that play a role every year. That year, Yeoh was in the stronger movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once. So she won Best Actress in the end. But yeah, I feel like these days, if you win at BAFTA and you're in the stronger performing movie, like a film that's going to win Best Picture, you're going to win the Oscar even if you only have that BAFTA win. Because the number 3 reason Mikey Madison won the Oscar is that, especially these days, I would say, like this year and last year, wins at Golden Globes and Critics' Choice and SAG don't mean a lot, right? I mean, look at SAG this year. Demi Moore wins Actress and Timothée Chalamet wins Actor. Neither one took the Oscar. Part of it's timing, right? Like SAG this year happened after the Oscar voting had already closed. I mean, I would be really curious if Oscar voting had gone, let's say, 4 or 5 days past the SAG wins this year. Would that have made a difference? Would Chalamet have won the Oscar in Best Actor over Brody? Like maybe, right? But because SAG happened so late, like the speeches don't mean anything, there's nothing we can really take away from that other than like, okay, the actors might prefer this person's performance, over that person's performance. It just, like, Oscar voting needs to end after SAG, I think, for the Screen Actors Guild Awards to have a major influence now. Because, like last year, Lily Gladstone won Best Actress at SAG for Killers of the Flower Moon, and most everybody switched to her to win the Oscar. She had the narrative. Emma Stone already had a Best Actress win, so it made sense. Like, most people said, this year, let's give it to Gladstone. But no, it went to Emma Stone, who won the BAFTA, not SAG, right? So BAFTA is more important. And then when you have Golden Globes and Critics' Choice, like winning those, it doesn't mean a whole lot. It's so early in the season. I remember Angela Bassett winning Best Supporting Actress for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. She took the Golden Globe and Critics' Choice. And we all thought, well, that's our winner this year. Best Supporting Actress. She has the narrative. She has the scene, right? She has that one scene she needed. And so even though she lost to BAFTA and SAG, I still felt on the nights that Angela Bassett was going to pull it off. I felt that in my guts. But no, they went with Jamie Lee Curtis, who did win SAG, not BAFTA. So again, every year there's going to be different factors at play. Sometimes a SAG win leads to an Oscar win, like I talked about with Yeoh. It's about having the right package. Like if you have the right win or wins with a very, very strongly performing film, you can take the Oscar. Number 4, The Substance being a genre film, a body horror film. Let's talk about Demi Moore and why she lost, right? So going into the ceremony, I thought this was going to be Demi Moore's moment. I felt there were 3 things about The Substance that was going to pull it off for her. One was her winning Best Actress at the Globes, at Critics' Choice, and SAG. That's not nothing, as Cody and I talked about in that video. That's not nothing. The second thing is that The Substance did get into Best Picture and Best Director at the Oscars. That also wasn't nothing. They clearly liked the film. If they had hated The Substance and, maybe liked the performances and certain things, the makeup, but didn't care for the movie, it wouldn't have gotten into Best Picture and Best Director, right? So that showed there was some strength with the film beyond just the performances. And the last 3 years, we had the makeup and acting win combo. 2021, Best Makeup went to The Eyes of Tammy Faye. Jessica Chastain wins Best Actress. 2022, Best Makeup goes to The Whale. Brendan Fraser wins Best Actor. 2023, Makeup goes to Poor Things. Emma Stone wins Best Actress. We all knew The Substance was going to win Best Makeup at the Oscars. So I'm like, well, if it's anything like the last 3 years, then Demi Moore is going to win Best Actress. There were 3 things, I would say, that absolutely kind of guided me into predicting her, and then you had the narrative of it all. Her being this, kind of icon of cinema of the 80s and 90s, this comeback story. Her speeches have been the best of the entire season. So I was like, there's a lot at play here for Demi Moore to win the Oscar for Best Actress. And I went with her. So why did she lose? These are my reasons, number 4 through 6, of why Madison ultimately prevailed. Number 4, again, is that The Substance is a horror film. I was always nervous about that. The subject matter of The Substance. I was like, we've had the occasional genre performance win Best Actress. Of course, Natalie Portman for Black Swan. Emma Stone in Poor Things, you can kind of turn to. Like, that's kind of a genre film. It's not a horror film, but it's kind of out there, right? So that's kind of a genre movie win for Best Actress. In the 90s, you had back-to-back wins for Misery and The Silence of the Lambs, Kathy Bates and Jodie Foster. So it's happened here and there. But I was always nervous about the subject matter of The Substance. I was like, especially that third act. I was like, it might just be too much for enough Academy members to watch it, to get through it, to vote for Demi Moore. Now, we're never going to see like a final tally, like how close it was. I'm very curious. Was it really close between Moore and Madison? Or was Madison like way out in front? We'll never really know. But if it was really, really close, I do think the subject matter of The Substance ultimately helped Madison win. Number 5 is that Demi Moore was not exactly overdue for an Oscar win, right? As I talked about a little bit in that Elusive Oscar video I made about Demi Moore's career, and she was really good in certain films. The closest she got to an Oscar nomination was probably Ghost, 1990. She got a Golden Globe nomination. She might have been in like 7th or 8th place to get the Best Actress nomination at the Oscars. But she's not Glenn Close. She's not Amy Adams. The Academy does not owe Demi Moore an Oscar. This was her first nomination. Like, she's been around a long time, way longer than Mikey Madison, but the work she did in the 80s and 90s, some of it, wasn't so great. Some of it, got her Razzie Award wins and things. And so we get to 2024, and she has this career best, incredible performance in The Substance that gets her in at the Oscars. I mean, that's great. But like, did the Academy owe her an Oscar? No. It's kind of like how Mickey Rourke was talked about a lot for maybe winning in 2008 for The Wrestler. He didn't win. Eddie Murphy for Dreamgirls did very well that season. I think he won everything except BAFTA. And then at the Oscars, they went with Alan Arkin for Little Miss Sunshine, the movie of the two that got into Best Picture. You also had in 2015, Sylvester Stallone being the favorite to win Best Supporting Actor for Creed. And no, they went with Mark Rylance for Bridge of Spies, one of 2 films that got into Best Picture, and Rylance had won at BAFTA, right? So I do think that played a role too. If Demi Moore had been on her 3rd, her 4th, her 5th Oscar nomination, she might have won. Like, there might have been that overdue narrative on top of everything else. It might have been just enough to get her that win, but because this was her first nomination, and, according to most people, she's never really deserved, let's say, an Oscar nomination before, outside of maybe Ghost. I think she was also great in A Few Good Men and some other things. But yeah, I mean, I get that. And so because she wasn't overdue in that way, I mean, Glenn Close has 8 nominations now. and they haven't given her a trophy. The Year of the Wife, I mean, she was on her 7th nomination, and even though Olivia Colman had the BAFTA win and was in the stronger film, The Favorites, I just thought that overdue narrative for Close is enough to get her a win this time, and it wasn't. So even if Moore had been overdue, maybe it wouldn't have mattered that much, I'm not sure, but her being on her first nomination, that didn't help either. And number 6 when it comes to Moore, and this is something I did think about here and there, and now that Madison has won, I wonder if this played a role too. Madison is the entire movie. She is the title character. She holds that entire film together. Anora, without Madison, there is no film, really. Whereas The Substance is very much a two-hander, and Demi Moore is not the entire film. Like, she's barely a part of the third act, I would say. Margaret Qualley is as essential a piece in that movie as Demi Moore. And with Margaret Qualley not getting into supporting actress, that also played a role in Moore's losing too, I think. If they had given Qualley a supporting actress nomination, that would have helped more the way that Yura Borisov getting into supporting actor at the Oscars and elsewhere did absolutely help Madison win. If Anora wasn't called Anora, if she was only part of that story, I think Madison might have crumbled at the end. But because Madison is so essential to that movie, I mean, is there a scene she's not in that 2-hour, 20-minute running time? Like maybe a couple little ones, but it's mostly her all the way through, whereas Demi Moore is only in parts of The Substance. There are many, many chunks of that movie she's not a part of. So I do think the running times of the two performances also played a factor. The number 7 reason why Mikey Madison won Best Actress at the Oscars was the Fernanda Torres of it all. We're never gonna know this either, but I'm curious to know, did Fernanda Torres take some votes away from Demi Moore? Were there Academy members who would have given their vote to Moore but instead went with Torres? That's absolutely possible. I mean, the two films, I'm Still Here and The Substance, are about as different as you can get. But both actresses are around the same age, just a few years apart. If you're giving your vote to an older actress in the category, it's Torres or Moore. I don't really know how vote splitting works, if there's really vote splitting at the Oscars, but I do feel like Fernanda Torres did play an important role in Best Actress. She wasn't at the bottom, right? She wasn't Carla Sofia Gascon getting probably 2-3% of the votes or something. There was likely a giant chunk of Best Actress votes at the Oscars that went to Torres. There were some people predicting her to win at the end. I never bought into that. That would have been the shocker of the night. I didn't think she was quite that strong. But because I'm Still Here really started surging right before Oscar voting, I would say, the film getting into picture, international feature, everybody watching I'm Still Here, I do think if Torres had not been a part of Best Actress at the Oscars, Moore at the end of the day might have had a better shot in winning. I do think there are some votes that would have gone to Moore that ended up going to Torres. Number 8 was the timing of those wins at PGA and DGA for Anora. I will always maintain that Anora had its near sweep at the Oscars because of the timing of PGA and DGA, happening the same night right as Oscar voting got started. If SAG and BAFTA had happened 2 weeks earlier and PGA and DGA had happened at the end of February, right as voting closed or something for the Oscars, then I'm not so sure that Anora wins picture, director, original screenplay, editing, and then makes it very, very likely for Madison to win Best Actress. Because Anora did not do well at Golden Globes, it won nothing there, it only won Best Picture at Critics' Choice. If PGA and DGA had gone a different direction, let's say PGA had gone to Conclave and DGA had gone to Brady Corbet for The Brutalist, what happens at the Oscars? Does Mikey Madison still win Best Actress? even if Conclave takes picture, Corbet takes director at the Oscars, does Madison still win? It's hard to say, you know? I mean, maybe it's possible. But again, I do think that Anora coming on as strong as it did at the end there helped Madison win. And so I do think in part she should thank her lucky stars that Anora did as well as it did at PGA and DGA. Number 9 is that for the most part, the Academy favors performance over narrative, right? And this is what I talked about a lot near the beginning of this video. When you look back at the year of 2020, Chadwick Boseman doing as well as he did throughout most of that season for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. And then the only thing Anthony Hopkins won before the Oscars was BAFTA. And it seemed like Boseman had to win the Oscar, right? The late, great Chadwick Boseman. He had given such a wonderfully complex final performance in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. And at the Oscars, especially when they pushed Best Actor to the very end of the ceremony, it was like, oh yeah. I mean, talk about a narrative, right? Like, Boseman was going to win that. A posthumous Oscar win, very well deserved. But no, they went with Hopkins, which I guess you could argue, like, Hopkins in The Father gives a better performance, I guess. I mean, Hopkins in The Father is pretty frickin' extraordinary. That is an amazing performance from one of our greatest actors. So that year, the Academy definitely proved they prefer performance over narrative. And, you know, you go back decades, like, occasionally you'll get, you know, a narrative of someone who does like push them all the way through. But I do feel like in recent years, when it's a very close race, performance outweighs narrative. That did happen also with Glenn Close and Olivia Colman 2018. Most of us predicted Glenn Close was finally going to win her Academy Award for The Wife. But you could argue the better film, the better performance there was The Favorites. I feel like most people think that. So even though Close had this like undeniable overdue narrative that year, the performance of Coleman in The Favorite was just so bonkers great. That's who the Academy went for. They went with the stronger performance. And that was the case this year. You know, there was more of a narrative to Demi Moore winning an Oscar for The Substance. You know, there was a lot of really cool factors there. Would have made a really great win. But at the end of the day, even though Mikey Madison didn't have very much of a narrative, really, you know, she's young, she hasn't made very many movies, she's like mid-20s, she's going to have more opportunities to win and all of that, blah, 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 blah. It's like the Academy said, this is the performance we prefer. You know, the narrative for Moore, you know, it's all well and good, but she doesn't need to win the Oscar. The performance that deserves to win Best Actress this year is Mikey Madison for Anora. And finally, the number 10 reason Mikey Madison won the Oscar for Best Actress is that, yes, she gave the performance of the year. In my Anora review out of the Toronto Film Festival in September, I called that movie like one of the best of the year, if not the best, and I called Madison the performance of the year. She knocked me out in that movie to such an extent, I was like delirious for a couple hours. Like I was on a high. I love that performance so much. I knew last September she was going to be nominated for sure. Going into like November, December, I was like, well, I don't know if she can win though. She's very young, she's kind of new, like can she actually win the Oscar for that? Well, as it turned out, she could, and she did, for the performance of the year. In the days following her victory, you know, there has been some attacks I've seen online toward Madison. A lot of people were very disappointed that Demi Moore didn't win, and you know, they were like, oh, here we go. You know, the whole movie, The Substance, is about, you know, an older actress, an aging actress fading away, and the new, younger, prettier thing, like, comes in and takes everything that was hers. And I don't know. There's been a lot of toxic chatter online, like, Moore deserved it, Madison didn't, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I'm just like, guys, this was an amazing Oscar win. One of the most deserved Oscar victories so far this decade. Mikey Madison is a star, and what a star-making role she got in Anora. I know my final prediction went to Demi Moore. And in that moment, when Emma Stone said Mikey Madison, there was some disappointment with me. I was a little sad that Demi Moore didn't win. But in these days that have passed, like really every day, I am becoming more and more pleased and enthusiastic about that Best Actress Oscar victory for Mikey Madison. I mean, what is there to complain about, really? Anora was my favorite film of the year. It won at the Oscars Best Picture, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Editing. And my favorite performance of the year, Mikey Madison, won Best Actress. I mean, come on. That is frickin' awesome. Her win is going to age extremely well over the coming years and decades. I am so thrilled to call Mikey Madison an Academy Award-winning actress for that astonishing performance in Anora. Thanks so much for watching and subscribing, and let me know in the comments below, what do you think of Mikey Madison's Oscar win for Best Actress, and I'll see you next time at the Awards Contender.